Billionaire's girlfriend, Rachel Bennett, wasn't supposed to notice the maid's teenage son. But that morning, inside Daniel Cross's massive mansion, the boy suddenly collapsed with a whisper that froze everyone. His voice was weak, scared, and carried a truth no one expected from someone living in poverty while serving a millionaire CEO's household. Rachel rushed toward him, ignoring the shocked staff, sensing something deeper, something hidden. The boy gripped her hand as if it was his last hope, trying to speak a secret that could change everything. And before anyone could stop him, he said something that left the entire mansion trembling. Daniel Cross was one of the richest billionaire CEOs on the West Coast, the kind of man whose decisions could shift entire industries. His mansion in the hills of Malibu stretched across acres, covered in polished marble, glass walls, and the quiet hum of luxury. Yet inside all that wealth, there was a coldness. Rooms too large, conversations too short, and a loneliness Daniel never admitted. Rachel Bennett, his girlfriend for nearly a year, was the opposite. Warm, gentle, not born into wealth. She had worked as a waitress during college, carried the weight of her own scars, and understood the value of small kindnesses. When Daniel invited her to stay at the mansion, she didn't fall in love with the luxury. She noticed the people, the workers, the ones no one ever looked at twice. That was how she first met Linda, the quiet maid who wore tired eyes and a shy smile. Linda always tried to hide her breathlessness, brushing off her coughs and pain as just exhaustion. But Rachel saw more. She noticed how Linda's hands shook while folding sheets, how she stepped aside quickly, always apologizing for taking up too much space, as if she believed she didn't deserve to exist in a world so shiny and rich. And then there was her son, Evan, a 16-year-old kid with messy hair, oversized clothes, and eyes that carried more responsibility than any child should bear. He often came with his mother after school to help her finish work faster, sorting laundry or carrying towels quietly, never complaining. He moved like someone used to being unnoticed. Rachel couldn't stop thinking about the moment he collapsed earlier that day. She kept replaying his fragile body, hitting the polished floor, the way his voice cracked when he tried to speak. Linda had nearly fainted when she saw him, tears spilling as she begged him to stay awake. The staff whispered that it was inappropriate for a maid to bring her son around this much. But Rachel sensed something else. Fear, desperation, something broken that Linda was trying to hide. That afternoon, as the sun lowered behind the ocean, Rachel went searching for Linda. She found her in the laundry room, trying to stand straight even though she looked ready to fall. Her breathing was uneven, her face pale. "Linda," Rachel said softly, "Evan needs a doctor, and you do too." For a split second, Linda's mask cracked. Her eyes filled with panic, real, uncontrollable fear. "No hospitals," she whispered. "Please, we can't. Not now." Rachel felt her heart tighten. "Why? What's going on?" Linda shook her head, clutching the edge of a laundry cart as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "If Mr. Cross finds out, I will lose everything." Rachel stood there, stunned. Lose everything? Why would Daniel fire her for needing help? But before Rachel could ask another question, Linda suddenly swayed, grabbing her chest as her legs buckled beneath her. And from somewhere deeper in the mansion, a voice shouted her name in terror. Evan's voice. Something was happening. Something far worse than anyone had realized. Rachel reacted first, rushing toward Linda as she collapsed against the laundry cart. Evan sprinted in, breathless, eyes wide with terror. "Mom! Mom, please stay awake!" His voice cracked with a kind of fear most adults never experience, a fear that came from carrying too much responsibility for too long. Rachel caught Linda before she hit the floor fully and gently lowered her onto a pile of folded towels. "Evan, grab her water," she urged. But Evan didn't move. His hands were shaking, his face pale. "She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. She's been working extra nights. I told her she was getting worse." Rachel looked at him, startled. "Worse? Evan, what do you mean?" He hesitated. His eyes darted to the door, terrified someone might overhear. "We need money," and she didn't want Mr. Cross to know. That name hung in the air like a weight. Before Rachel could ask anything else, footsteps echoed down the hallway, heavy, commanding. Daniel. He stepped into the laundry room with the sharp intensity that all his employees feared. One look at Linda on the floor, and his tone hardened. What happened? Evan instantly tensed, his body rigid with dread. Rachel placed a protective hand on his shoulder, feeling him tremble. "She fainted," Rachel said. "She needs a doctor." Daniel's jaw moved slightly, the only sign of emotion. "Why didn't she say anything sooner?" Rachel answered before Evan could. "Because she was scared." Went da-da-da-da-da. "Daniel, your staff is terrified of losing their jobs." Daniel's expression faltered for the first time, confusion flickering in his eyes. "That's not..." But then Linda's voice broke through the tension, weak, trembling, barely audible. "Mr. Cross, please don't fire me. I just needed the extra shifts." Everyone froze, even Daniel. Rachel felt Evan leaning into her side, trying to hide, trying to be small. Daniel turned to him. "Evan, is this true? You were helping your mother work these hours?" Evan swallowed hard, then nodded. She couldn't do it alone anymore. Daniel looked torn. Anger, confusion, guilt, all twisting together. "You should have told someone." Evan's response came out sharper than anyone expected. "People like us don't get to tell billionaires our problems." The room went silent. Rachel felt that line strike Daniel harder than any insult ever could. The boy's raw honesty shocked him. It shocked everyone. For a moment, Daniel didn't speak. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Rachel, take them to the guest suite until we figure this out." The staff, watching from the hallway, exchanged whispers. Some were clearly displeased. Others looked ready to call HR or complain. But Rachel didn't care. She guided Linda and Evan toward the elevator, determined to help them whether anyone approved or not. Silent, inside the guest suite, a quiet space filled with soft lighting and ocean views, Linda rested on the bed, drifting in and out of consciousness. Rachel sat beside her, while Evan paced the room, restless, torn between fear and anger. After several minutes, he stopped and faced Rachel. "You shouldn't help us. This place, these people, they won't let you." "Let me?" Rachel replied softly. "Evan, kindness isn't something people can control." Just then, the door opened, and Daniel entered, expression tense, phone in hand, sleeves rolled up, as if preparing for battle. "Rachel," he said, voice tight, "we might have a problem." She straightened. "What kind of problem?" He hesitated, checking the hallway before closing the door. "Someone on staff reported this situation to one of my board members. They think you're interfering with household operations, and they want Linda removed immediately." Rachel's heart dropped. "Removed? Now? She can barely breathe." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I told them we'd keep her here temporarily, but they're pushing back. Hard." Evan stepped forward, his voice trembling with fury. "You can't take her away. She needs help." Daniel looked at the boy, and for once, the CEO who usually had all the answers looked helpless. "I'm trying, Evan," he said quietly. but I need time." Evan shook his head, tears forming. "We don't have time." Rachel felt a chill crawl up her spine. She turned to Daniel. "What aren't you saying?" Daniel hesitated. Too long. Finally, in a low voice, he admitted, "Someone filed a complaint claiming Evan isn't supposed to be on the property at all. They're demanding I remove him tonight." Rachel's breath caught. Evan froze. Linda, barely conscious, whispered his name in fear. And for the first time, Rachel sensed the truth. This wasn't just about a job. Someone was trying to tear this family apart, and they were just getting started. The moment Daniel revealed the complaint, something shifted in the room. It wasn't just fear anymore. There was an invisible threat circling them, something that had been waiting for the right moment to strike. "Who would do that?" Rachel demanded. But Daniel didn't answer. His silence said enough. Evan backed away, hands clenched, breathing uneven. "We didn't do anything wrong," he whispered. "My mom just needed help." Rachel knelt in front of him. "I know, and we're not letting anyone push you out." But Evan shook his head. "People like us don't win against people like them." His words carried the exhaustion of someone who'd learned to expect disappointment. It made Rachel's chest tighten. Daniel exhaled sharply. "Evan, listen to me. I'm not letting anyone throw you out tonight. I just need to figure out who's behind this." And then his expression hardened, focused, almost dangerous. Rachel recognized that look. It was the one he used in boardrooms when someone tried to sabotage him. The only difference now was that he wasn't fighting to protect his company. He was fighting to protect Evan. Rachel placed a hand on Linda's forehead. Her breathing had grown more shallow, and every time she tried to open her eyes, they fluttered shut again. "She needs proper treatment," Rachel whispered. "She won't last like this." "I know," Daniel said. "But if I send her to the hospital right now, word will spread instantly. And if whoever filed the complaint is watching, they'll use it to push her out for good." Rachel stared at him, stunned. "So we do nothing?" "No," he said firmly. "I'm bringing in a private doctor, someone I trust." He stepped aside and made a call, his tone low but urgent. While he arranged help, Rachel guided Evan to the balcony to breathe. Below them, the mansion grounds stretched out, expensive, polished. Everything the world saw as per. But behind the perfection was a cruelty Evan had felt his entire life. "Evan," Rachel said softly, "you don't have to fight this alone." He finally looked her in the eye. "Why do you care so much? You don't even know us." Rachel paused. Something old and painful stirred inside her. "When I was your age," she said, "I needed just one person to care. No one did. I won't let that happen to you." For the first time, Evan's expression softened. Not trust, not yet, but something close. Before he could respond, Daniel returned, tension written across every line of his face. "The doctor's on the way," he said, "but there's more." Rachel felt her stomach drop. "More?" Daniel hesitated. "I checked the staff logs. Someone's been tracking Linda's hours, every shift, every late stay. They've been building a case against her for weeks." Evan's face went white. "Why would anyone do that to her?" Daniel didn't answer, because he didn't know yet, or maybe he did. A knock suddenly echoed through the suite. 3 sharp, cold taps. Rachel and Evan froze. Daniel moved toward the door, but before opening it, he turned back, lowering his voice. "Whoever is on the other side, they aren't here to help." He reached for the handle, and at that exact moment, Linda suddenly woke with a gasp, grabbed Rachel's wrist, and whispered something that made her blood run cold. "Don't trust anyone downstairs." Before Rachel could ask what she meant, the doorknob turned from the outside, and the door slowly swung open. The door opened, revealing Mr. Harlan, the mansion's longtime head of operations, a stern man who treated rules like iron and compassion like weakness. His expression was stiff, eyes darting from Daniel to Rachel, then to Evan standing protectively beside his mother's bed. "Mr. Cross," Harlan said tightly, "we need to remove the maid and her son from the property. Tonight." Evan flinched. Rachel stepped in front of him without hesitation. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Harlan, I gave no such order." "Your board did," Harlan replied, "and they insist you enforce it. They claim the boy has violated security policies for months." "That's ridiculous," Rachel snapped. "He was helping his mother survive." Harlan didn't even blink. Policies don't change because someone feels sympathy. That cold sentence made Evan's eyes fill with tears he refused to let fall. His mother stirred weakly, whispering his name as if sensing the danger. Daniel stepped forward, voice low and sharp. "You're not taking them anywhere." Harlan's stare hardened. "If you choose to ignore the board, they will assume you're unfit to manage staff decisions, possibly even your position." Rachel could see the shift in Daniel's face, the CEO side of him battling the human side. For years, he'd been taught to prioritize power, logic, reputation. But now, with Evan's trembling breath and Linda's worsening condition in the background, something inside him cracked. Evan suddenly dropped to his knees in front of Daniel. "Please," he whispered, voice breaking, "please don't take my mom away. She's all I have. If she leaves this place tonight, she won't make it." Harlan stiffened, uncomfortable with the raw emotion spilling across the room. Daniel froze. Everyone froze. The boy's words sank into him deeper than any business threat ever had. He saw his younger self, alone, scared, begging for help from people who never listened. And he realized he was standing on the edge of becoming just like them. Then Linda's breathing hitched, loud, strained, terrifying. Her chest stopped moving for a moment. Evan screamed, "Mom!" Rachel grabbed her pulse, weak, fading fast. "Daniel, we're out of time." Harlan stepped forward. "Move aside. She needs to be removed from—" "Touch her," Daniel growled, "and I swear you'll regret it." In that instant, the private doctor rushed down the hall toward them. But before he could reach the room, a staff member appeared behind him, holding a manila folder, and declared loudly, "Mr. Cross, we found something in Linda's file, something that changes everything." The doctor froze. Daniel froze. Rachel felt her stomach twist, and Evan stared in terror as the staff member opened the folder, revealing a secret no one was prepared to face. The staff member held the folder like it contained dynamite. The tension in the room tightened as Daniel snatched it from his hands and scanned the documents inside. His face went still, too still. Rachel stepped closer. "Daniel, what is it?" He swallowed hard. "These aren't staff files. These are medical reports." His voice dropped. "Linda didn't collapse because of exhaustion. She's been hiding a severe heart condition, untreated for years." Evan's breath hitched. "She knew," he whispered, trembling. "She knew, and she did." Rachel touched his shoulder. "She was trying to protect you." Daniel kept reading, and then his expression shifted again, turning from shock to outrage. These reports were sent to her manager months ago. Someone knew she was sick. Someone ignored it. Harlan's face went pale. Rachel caught it immediately. "You knew." Harlan didn't respond. His silence was louder than any confession. "You let her work herself to the edge of death," Daniel said, voice shaking with fury. "You pushed her into extra shifts. You built a case against her while she was fighting to stay alive." Harlan stiffened. She didn't follow protocol. You don't get to talk about protocol, Daniel snapped. Not after this. The private doctor pushed forward, finally reaching Linda. I need space, now. Rachel pulled Evan back as the doctor checked her vitals. His expression was grave. She's in cardiac distress. I need to stabilize her before we move her. If she leaves this mansion in this cond, she won't survive the trip. Evan sobbed, dropping beside the bed. Mom, please stay with me. Please. Rachel knelt beside him, wrapping an arm around his shaking shoulders. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, fighting a battle inside himself. He had power, influence, wealth, but none of it mattered unless he used it now. He turned to Harlan. You're done here. Effective immediately. Harlan opened his mouth, but Daniel's voice cut through the room. Cold, commanding, final. Leave before I have security escort you out. Harlan backed away, face twisting with anger, but he knew better than to challenge the man who'd built an empire. As he disappeared down the hall, Linda's eyes fluttered open for a moment. She searched the room weakly. Evan leaned in. I'm here, Mom. I'm right here. Linda's voice cracked in a whisper. I'm sorry. I never wanted you to suffer. Rachel felt tears sting her eyes. Daniel stepped closer, kneeling beside the bed for the first time. You're not going anywhere, he said quietly. Not tonight. Not ever again without the care you deserve. The doctor injected medication, working quickly. Her condition is critical. We're not out of danger. Evan gripped his mother's hand, desperate. Mom, please fight. Linda's breath trembled, and then her hand went still. The monitor beeped sharply. The doctor's expression turned grim. Daniel, Rachel whispered, voice breaking, is she? Before he could answer, the doctor took a deep breath and said, I need to call for advanced support. This is now life or death. Evan's scream tore through the room, just as the mansion lights suddenly flickered and went out, plunging everything into darkness. The blackout lasted only seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When the emergency lights flicked on, the doctor was already working fast, performing compressions on Linda's chest. Evan clung to Rachel, shaking uncontrollably. Daniel stood frozen, his hands curled into fists, helplessness ripping through him in a way he'd never felt. Then, after what seemed like forever, the sharp, steady rhythm of a heartbeat returned. Weak, fragile, but alive. The doctor exhaled in relief. She's not out of danger, but she's responding. We need to get her to the medical wing I arranged downstairs. She'll have equipment there that won't risk transport. Evan let out a broken gasp, dropping to his knees beside his mother. Thank you, thank you. Rachel helped him stand, her heart full but trembling. Daniel stepped forward quietly, his voice softer than anyone had ever heard. She lives because she fought, but also because someone loved her enough to stay, he said, looking at Evan and Rachel both. The staff who had gathered backed away silently. No threats, no whispers. Harlan was gone, and with him, the fear that used to rule the mansion. Linda was transferred to the private medical wing Daniel had secretly kept for emergencies, one he had never expected to use for someone outside his wealthy world. Rachel stayed with Evan the entire night, never letting him feel alone. Daniel stayed too, pacing, thinking, facing truths he had avoided for years. When morning arrived, the doctor gave them the news. Her condition is stabilizing. Slowly, but steadily. She has a real chance. Evan collapsed into Rachel's arms, tears of pure relief soaking her shirt. Daniel turned his face away for a moment, swallowing hard, emotions striking him in powerful, unexpected waves. Later that afternoon, when Linda woke fully, she found her son leaning over her, holding her hand. Rachel stood behind him, smiling softly, And Daniel, the billionaire CEO who once kept walls around his heart like steel, stood at the foot of the bed, eyes gentle. Linda whispered, "Why? Why did you all help us?" Daniel answered before anyone else could. "Because I forgot what kindness meant, and your son reminded me." Evan looked up, startled. Daniel continued, voice steady. "I spent years believing power was everything, but last night taught me something I should have known long ago. Being a billionaire doesn't make a man strong. Choosing to save someone does." Linda began crying softly. Rachel wiped her tears away, smiling through her own. A week later, Daniel called a staff meeting. The judgment everyone had been waiting for finally came. He announced the termination of those who had ignored Linda's medical reports, strict new rules for worker protection, housing assistance for staff families, a new medical fund for emergencies, and then he made the biggest announcement. Linda is no longer a maid here. She will stay in this home while she recovers, and afterward, she will manage the new staff welfare program. Her son, Evan, will receive a full scholarship, funded personally by me. Gasps filled the room. Evan froze in disbelief. Rachel squeezed his hand, whispering, "You deserve this." Daniel's voice deepened. "This family stays under my protection, permanently." The judgment was final. Months later, on a warm, bright afternoon, the mansion held a small gathering. Not a gala, not a business event. A simple dinner, a handmade cake, laughter rising from a table that had long been too quiet. Evan sat beside his mother, now healthier than she had been in years. Rachel held Daniel's hand, her smile reflecting everything he had become. And Daniel, once defined by loneliness and power, looked at the people around him with a gratitude that would stay with him forever. As the evening ended, Evan handed Daniel a small folded note. "For changing our lives," it read. "For choosing kindness when you didn't have to." Daniel kept that note tucked inside his jacket, his reminder of the moment everything changed. And as the sun set over the Malibu hills, the mansion, once cold and distant, finally felt like a home. Kindness had done what wealth never could. It saved a family, it healed a broken man, and it sparked a miracle of love and forgiveness that none of them would ever forget.